Scano, good afternoon. Sego, everyone. Sorry we're a few minutes late. There's not always, we're not going to say always, but when we are delayed, it's usually to do with technology. So we're just going to give that a little bit of positive energy and just be grateful and thankful that we have this opportunity to connect through technology and through the web. Nyawa for making it here. We'll wait for Kevin. I know he had an adventure today with his son. It's his birthday, so happy birthday! And if you can make it, Kevin, great. The platform is here waiting for you. So in this moment, I'd just like to acknowledge everyone that will join us and visit us at a later time, maybe be jumping in from our YouTube channel or Facebook page. We're grateful for you, for being involved in following and supporting Grandmother's Voice. Hey, Shelley. We do have a little comment section here that we can see and answer questions to. So please jump on and share your messages. Mm-hmm. So I just like to acknowledge this, just everything that the Creator provides for us, Mother Earth especially. All of our animals and energies, wind, earth, waters, air, land, everything that is provided for us to sustain us. I'd never want to, rush a really good opening or, how we call it, if we're doing it in a good way, Thanksgiving address, when there's time to gather and talk about really important matters. And this week, in a couple of the meetings that I was at, it's really important. I understand now more than ever in the time that we're in, how important it is to acknowledge everything that is provided for us. Because when we open and begin our time together with good words and bringing our hearts and minds together, we know that it sets the space and time in a good way to honor whatever words come forward, would honor any person that shows up with whatever it is that they want, to share in that time, with the people that they're gathering with. And so I just like to acknowledge just the teachings and the understandings that have been passed on to us in this time for us to really, I really hope that people are awake to the understandings that our Indigenous elders have preserved for us for this time. That when we come together to have good conversation and talk about important matters in our communities and to people into the future, that it's for us, to support us. And so Nyawa to this beautiful day and everything that comes to you to make your day wonderful. So Nyawa Andrea Rowe for showing up and supporting Grandmother's Voice from the time I met you. Always really being here with an open heart and as a sister and a mom, for me, it's important that I also can show up as my true self for people in the community as well. So, and Mary Brown, you too, another sister who constantly shows up and shares your knowledge, and it's really appreciated. You have a lot of really great knowledge and wisdom to share, and so this is a really fun time for us to be able to come together. So Scano, maybe we'll just do a little intro of each other, and then we can I just want to share a couple of things that have come to me and I think our community, and just we'll address that before we get into Andrea's fun topics for today. Andrea.
Thanks,
or
Jody.
Mary,
go ahead.
Sorry.
You want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Yes, sure. I'm Mary Brown. I'm with Sustainable Milton. I have been so grateful for the partnerships that we've had with Grandmother's Voice. Hi, Kevin. And, just being able to honor the land and the species around us and learn about how we want to care for, plants and animals that I feel so sad of seeing them, disappear, and we're trying to do everything we can to provide those spaces for them. So very, very grateful for that partnership with Grandmother's Voice to help us learn this knowledge about how to do that.
Hi, everyone. I was the one with technical difficulties, and I have a little bit of delay going on, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. But my name is Andrea Rowe, and I am happy to be joining this conversation once again this week to talk about my favorite topic, which is how do we make this world a better place? And my passion is doing it through gardens and plants and reconnecting with nature. So I'm happy to be here again, and I'll turn it over to Kevin to introduce himself, just to say a quick hello. Hey, Kevin.
Hello, I just was stuck in traffic and I made it. I'm Kevin Hamilton, and I work for Nawasa at McQueston Urban Farm in the east end of Hamilton, and we will be taking volunteers and stuff soon if anybody wants to come down and see what we do. Growing lots of vegetables, and I also have another farm, Tilthy Soil Organic Farm, that I farm at, and I didn't realize until yesterday that it was no mow May, and I started mowing, but I just mowed one strip, and for comic relief, I'm going to show you. It was just one strip. Don't ask me why, but I'm going to finish the job. I don't know. Do I have to wait till the end of May to finish the job?
I don't know.
This conversation. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that there you go, Kevin. You can start something new for men to do in May. They'll boycott doing the lawn and shaving their head instead of growing their mustache.
I'm happy I stopped there and didn't go right down there too, but
No, my husband's done that one before.
anyways, that's me. I like to have fun, so there you have it.
Appreciate it. Just before we get into the conversations today about the No Mow May, that Andrea, I don't know where it came up from, but I just want to acknowledge the groups that Grandmother's Voice is a part of, the Indigenous organizations that are supporting the relatives that have come in from the northern communities, and they're in Niagara Falls right now, trying to get it settled from the flooding that happens in their community in the north, and just grateful for those frontline workers, and just knowing that it's not an easy position to do that, to support community members that are coming in, and just to everyone who has been supporting by donations and calls, and just asking, how can we support those organizations and frontline people. Thank you so much for caring and sending messages. It's really important for us, and this is our community, and these are our relatives, and so anything and everything that we can offer them to give them some support is really important in this time. And then also just acknowledging missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls this week on Friday, February 5th. That's the Day of Awareness. So you'll start to see, I'm sure, information on your social medias. This should be an everyday thing. This is something that our elders say is, began from contact, when the visitors came in and they brought their ways of unwellness. And this is now continues to be in our communities across our world. It's not just Indigenous people now, and so I think that's what we have to realize is it's time to start to embed these Indigenous ways of knowing and being connected to each other, to the natural world. And in doing this will help to, I guess, reinstill some ethics that maybe have been forgotten in our world. So Nyawa to those elders who continue to preserve our sacred teachings and understanding so that we can have a a future for our children. So you can check out our Facebook and YouTube channel. We'll be having a live talk at 12 on Friday, and then also a full moon ceremony in Burlington. So thank you for that space and time. I know it may have cut into some of our conversations here, but I know you guys can get a lot in. So let's talk about the environment. And what do you have to talk about today, Andrea? I love this no mo May.
Well, I think Kevin has put a good spin on this. Sorry, I almost called you my husband's name. Where No Mo May has been social media campaign, hashtag No Mo May, to discourage people from cutting their grass and to leave it a little wild. And there's two sides of the coin to this, and I think this is a really good forum to discuss it, because why would we leave our lawns messy and allow dandelions to grow when the argument to do so is to provide food for the pollinators? So, I think some good rebuttals would be, why are we growing grass in the first place? Manicured lawns. And yes, messy is okay if you're leaving habitat for our native pollinators to have habitat and food sources, but dandelions are introduced, manicured lawns are a colonial idea. So let's open up the conversation with that little jumpstart.
Yeah, I really feel like that, No Mo May, it's symbolic, we're looking for those wild spaces to be more plentiful so that, insects can have a place to eat, and the to have the lawn in the first place is really the underlying issue. So it's symbolic, I think, if nothing else, the idea of not mowing your lawn. But if we really want to have an impact, we should really start to replace that lawn with native plants that the insects recognize as a food source and can make use of. And so, this is a way forward, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I like that Kevin has taken it literally as a symbol and turned it on its head.
Quite literally. Yeah, I noticed like a few years back, maybe about 4 years ago, there was a spring where, I remember Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, which was like way, way, way ahead of its time. I think she wrote that in the 70s. And I started to witness it, and it was ominous, but there was no bees out. And I had dandelions, and I always let the margins on the farm go. And but yeah, it's very alarming when you don't see the pollinators and stuff in the spring. We had a bunch of arugula planted that I just leave a lot of things to overgrow, and it flowered and it's got flowers on it, and so we didn't cut it down. And and there's all the pollinators in the arugula flowers, and the dandelions are especially important this time of year. And I think as far as like, we have this weird aesthetic thing as in our culture. I really don't like our culture so much in a lot of ways, but anyways, I think if you just put a simple sign on your lawn that says No Mo May, knock and ask me why if anyone's interested, like that kind of thing. But just to put a sign to say that you're not a crazy hippie, or maybe you are, but you're the fact that you're letting your lawn go a little wild is totally acceptable. But yeah, just putting those little signs up, and then that way, people don't think you're just lazy or whatever, or people are self-conscious about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've been slowly removing my front lawn, square foot by square foot. Soon I can say square meter by square meter, and replacing it with other things. And it attracts a lot of conversations when people are walking by with their kids or their dogs. And what is that? And why are you doing this? And yeah, so I think it is a good conversation starter. But if you're not around to have that conversation, signage isn't so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, friend of mine I was talking with this morning was saying that she was up at a garden center and talking to one of the young people that were, selling. They're just opening the garden centers now, and she was saying, well, all these plants are great, but where's your native plants? Because these ones don't feed any of the insects. And he was like most young people, and most people are. We are not educated as to what it is that insects need, what birds need, and we need this education. So any conversations we can have to open up to people and show them, the way. This is where we need to go. She was saying, you notice these days when you drive your car and you put the windshield wipers on, you're not cleaning off any I remember the days when there always be insects. You can see they're not there, and we need to do everything we can to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Carolinian Canada has started a good campaign, and they're becoming more readily available in some of the big box stores. I know Superstore and Home Depot are carrying native species, and they're specifically labeled, but some of the other box stores have some that have been recognized as not properly labeled as native species. So we can't even just 100% implicitly trust some of the signage. It does come back to that need for education and awareness. Sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if I mentioned this a couple of weeks back there, but West Coast Seed is a seed company out in BC, and they have wildflower mixes, butterfly mix, bee mix, and hummingbird mix, and those are just really cool things to put around where you have windows and stuff. So just so you can watch, but I mean, just to get packets of that, and you can plant them early in the spring because I think some of them need to stratify. So you could just put them on your soil in early spring, even when there's just snow just melted, and then they'll come up exactly when they should, and then they'll provide that kind of the food for those butterflies and bees and all those things that are feeding early in the spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that coevolution is very important, and locally adapted seed is very critical to have with the local pollinators having co-evolved with the local species. Mm-hmm. So read the labels, try and find something as close to home as possible. Every little bit helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, like I can't remember the actual numbers, but this is probably somewhere in the ballpark, but the honeybees and stuff, it's great to have honey, and don't get me wrong, I love it and eat it and enjoy it, but they do outcompete space for native bees. And if you can put up native, make the space tufts of grass, and then you can actually buy little homes for the native bees. But a few of the native bees are doing, like 200 of them are doing what 2,000 honeybees are as far as being the workhorses of pollinating. And it's quite amazing. And the sad thing is, we're all trying to save the bees and the honey, and those are the ones that are kind of failing right now. And we need to help establish those wildflowers and the native pollinators that are going to help those guys and make those spaces, along our fence lines and that. And I know I used to leave every second or third fence line because I always battled this place looks unsightly and you got to trim everywhere. And I'm like, no, you mean ecocide. You want me to, kill all the ecology around the organic farm. And, there's a balance between cleanliness and that, and also having these spaces. But we would leave every third post with big tufts of grass for things to go in. And provide that habitat for some of the native species.
Yeah, the Honeybee Association and the Honey Association, I guess, has done a good job at marketing colony collapse disorder and the need to save the bees. But honeybees are one part of the equation, and the native species are 95% of the rest of the equation.
That's right.
And I wonder if the native bees are actually okay, and if they're going to bounce back because of that. Because sometimes when a void happens, something else fills that ecological niche. So, I mean,
Oh,
that's
interesting you should bring that up, because Lorraine Johnson and Dr. Sheila Kalla wrote an article in response to NOMO May, and they've collaborated and just published a new book about the rusty patch bumblebee and its threatened existence if we don't protect what it needs for habitat. So there are serious implications for the native species.
Yeah, and I think what I've also come to understand too, that is, pollinating insects, or insects that are taking food from the plants, are part of the equation. But there's so many carnivorous, for another word, insects that feed on the other insects. And so it's the diversity. It's the diversity of the species that is really in dire straits.
The interconnectedness of the food web.
Yes. Yeah. The honeybees become sort of the poster child for sustainability. If we can protect the honeybee, but it is the variety that is missing. It's the that how it all works together.
Yeah, I know there's spaces in China where they've had such mega pollution from us sending over like our computers and that, and they mine out all the precious metals from the computers. But there are whole sections of land where there's no insects, and so the peasants, for lack of a better word, are in hand pollinating all the fruit trees and orchards, and they go through one by one so they can have fruit. And I mean, if you can just imagine the metabolic and the time that it takes for people to exert the energy to hand pollinate and stuff. I mean, I do it on some things, but yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, but let's not get there.
Not sustainable on a large scale.
No.
That's so true. Yeah.
Jody, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I'm like looking at my pictures. I'm sitting here listening to you guys, okay, because I've learned so much. And I was looking at my pictures of like my tobacco that I planted, organizing my own, like I just learned so much from you guys. I have a little like calendar that I've created, and all of the stuff that I'm doing. This has been probably one of the most exciting parts of what I've been doing with Grandmother's Voice, because I'm just one person that had no idea what to do. And just these little conversations make so much sense to me as a human being that really wasn't paying any attention. I was completely disconnected, and I was learning, about connection to land and paying attention to nature and everything that the elders, teach us to really connect to our source and, connect for mind wellness. But this is penetrating my spirit, wanting to know more about what we need first to replenish or rebuild, our own lands, our homelands, and our native species. Learning about what belongs and what doesn't belong, and then also understanding like, how did we get here? It blows my mind sometimes just having these small conversations about the difference between bees, and so I'm grateful. I don't know. People that are watching, sometimes I think when we title it certain things like environmental collective, I'm interested to know who shows up to see these conversations, because are they people that already have this knowledge, and should we be naming it something else to bring people like me that don't have the knowledge but want to have more information? So I'm interested in that. So anybody watching, I mean, you're more than welcome to just put a little message in there to tell me who you are, because the people in the room here right now have, like, you guys all come from such different ways of knowing, right? Like Andrea, you were a mom, and just experience, really loving what you do, and that, and Mary, like how you guys are involved in what you do is really relevant to just the average person. So Yeah, thanks for asking me, because I was just like listening to you guys talk.
Yeah, one of the students, actually, it was girl guides that I was with on some camp weekend more recently, and I was saying, we have to find ways of providing habitat for bees. And I said, I'm not talking about honeybees. I'm talking about the bumblebees, all the other species of bees that you see, and they're disappearing. And did you know that they don't burrow in? They always think of it, there being a classic hive, and I said they don't. Most of them don't. There's no hive for them. They actually live in the ground, and if we treat the ground differently, or if we disturb it when they're trying to, find habitat, you destroy that process that they have. And they may have spent like weeks and weeks making this burrow, and then you fill it in. You have to be aware of what's going on out there, and then try to do what you can to support that growth. So they were, whoever, I can't remember her name, but she was so surprised and delighted actually that this is the case, that they actually live in the ground because it's an interesting concept,
Yeah, and those lawnmowers sure have quite the vacuum when
Yes.
we're going over too. So
Yeah.
and yeah. I don't know, what are the other flowers and stuff that come up in the spring? Like crocuses are definitely up, and the dandelions are another big feeder.
I was invited. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
We were out for a hike, and there's this beautiful flower called liverwort right now, which is a native species. And of course, it's a little early for insects, but it comes up before the trillium, and it's gorgeous, and it fills the woods. And you see it once you see it, it's like this is what I find when you learn a new species of flower. Once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. You see it everywhere, and it's providing, I'm sure, food for some insect, which is providing food for another insect, which is providing food ultimately for, these larger pollinating species that we need. And, I love that chain, and I love learning about a new native species of flowers that I didn't know before.
Okay, so I have a question regarding dandelions. So do you dry them out before you make tea with them? Does anybody know? Like, I know that's a question maybe for Grandma Gail, or Kevin, do you know?
I haven't really made it. Yeah. I use the flowers to make a brassicas steroid. I mean, this is another interesting thing. I get my kids to go out and harvest. I just say 1,000, and then they just go out picking them wherever there's a big field of dandelions. I guess more advantageous if it's not a place that's sprayed, but there's no lack of places for dandelions. Anyways, we pick them, and then we stick it in a bucket with water. And you can do the same thing with sunflower when they get all the pollen on them. And then I just stir it a bunch until I see the water physically go yellow. And then I make ice cubes with it, the water, and then freeze them and stick them in a freezer bag. Anyways, and that's a brassicas steroid. So I'll take a couple of ice cubes, throw them in a backpack spray or a spray bottle. And then when you spray your plants with that, you're spraying them to trigger them to flower. So it triggers a pheromone in the plant that tells it it's time to flower. So me being a farmer and I'm trying to get to market early in the year, I will spray my beans or my peas or whatever a week before I know they're supposed to be flowering, or 2 weeks before. And then 2 days later, they set flowers, and I'm first to market, making a little bit more money on the margins, the marginal time of year when nobody has anything. And then, I mean, you can force things to flower early too. So that's another cool thing about the dandelions. You can force other flowers to come up if you feel like, hey, there's lots of bees around, but there's not enough pollinators. But no, I don't know how to make dandelion tea.
That was fabulous. Forget the tea. I'll just buy that. I'll go buy it from Grandma Gail's place. But that was fabulous.
Yeah, the Mennonites up by my parents' place make dandelion jelly. But I don't know how to make dandelion tea. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Amazing. Okay, so we're pretty much done, I think, time-wise. We took up a bit to say hello. But are there anything going on is there anything going on in the community, Andrea or Kevin, Mary, that you guys have that you want to talk about before we sign off and tell people what's going on?
Definitely. We have an event up at BD Library on Saturday. Starting at 10, we're going to help open the Indigenous garden that is there and do a bit of a community cleanup. And then in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, we're going to have Holly Marsh come and talk about bokashi and do a teaching on how this composting method works and how people can use it even if they live in a small if they don't have a backyard. This is something where they can do it within a pail and then even share that bokashi tea is what they call it up at the Country Heritage Park in the in Grandmother's Voices garden. So we're really looking forward to this weekend.
Awesome. Anything going on over there, Kevin, before we sign off?
Not off the top of my head. We have our seedling sales coming up May the 13th. That's in a little while. I just did a soil health workshop at Planting Seeds of Hope Middleport in a farm in Middleport there, and had some bokashi tea. And yeah, it's something that we use as well for plant health, and that's cool. Where was that again, Mary?
It's going to be at BD Library in the back, in the Indigenous garden at the back of the library.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's the Milton Public Library, the BD location, BD branch.
Yeah. BD branch. Yeah.
Very good. That's awesome.
It's one of the organizations that we've been supporting through just like growing gardens in the Halton region. But just to Andrea and I found our bokashi we left from last fall. I think someone forgot the bucket.
It was well fermented.
We found it. It was like it almost blew off. The lid almost blew off.
That's good.
So interesting. I loved that. When I started to learn about that last year through Holly, it's a really cool technique. So yeah, if you have time, show up on Saturday. Raiden, our firekeeper, will be opening that morning for us, and bringing everyone together in a good way. So for everyone that joined us, Kevin, happy birthday to your son that just happened to pop in there. We knew that you might be a little late today by taking him out for a little celebration. So happy birthday to him. He's 11, you said?
He's 11 years old.
Right? Double digits. That's awesome. Double ones. And all the best to everybody, this week, and staying well and just moving into spring with a really good open heart is this actually, I wanted to share this before I left. If anyone hasn't started to read or grab this book, Gathering Moss, this is a really fun Robin Wall Kimmerer book. I'm enjoying it. It's a really fun book for you to read, to just kind of get connected again in a good way to some of the teachings connected to nature. So the natural world. So that's my little plug today. I'm enjoying this book.
The same author as Braiding Sweetgrass.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So good.
All right. So we'll see you all again next week. And in the meantime, pay attention if you can. Send some love out on Friday for MMIWG, violence against women and, gender diverse people. We need to just, check in and start to change some things that are going on in our communities. So we can only do that by connecting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Stay safe and plant away.
Bye-bye.